What's the number one challenge for businesses today?
Workforce development, attracting, recruiting, and retaining people.
And that's why we created this podcast, designed for the frustrated CEO, the under-resourced recruiter, or the overworked manager, to give you the tools to tackle those WTF moments.
It's time to open another workforce therapy file.
Welcome back to the Workforce Therapy Files. Today we're going to do something a smidge different. Jason, Molley, I hope you're ready for this.
I'm scared.
Well, the topic today is the future of work. And we can't talk about the future of work without exploring how systems and tools are morphing and changing and how the machines are thinking for themselves.
The robots are coming.
The robots are coming. Absolutely. Absolutely. So today we actually went into a popular AI tool and asked it to put together an outline, but only I have seen it. So Molley and Jason, you guys get to do this popcorn style, and we are going to use AI to talk about the future of work. You ready for that?
Let's do it.
Sounds
True
weird,
test.
right? All right, here we go.
Totally weird.
We're going to see how good it is. And there will be some things that we obviously see are a little bit weak. But I also want to warn our listeners that I asked it to make it funny. Is that weird? So it's going to...
Twist of humor.
Yeah.
So that would be a great way to start. What was the prompt?
Yes. Oh,
What did
great.
you type in? There you go.
So I asked it to outline a 30-minute podcast about the future of work. And then I wrote, and make it funny.
This is either going to be our most popular podcast ever or our least popular podcast
Or it
ever.
will be popular for the wrong reasons. Like, have you heard this trash? Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. All right.
But
so,
I'm going to listen to it multiple times. I know that.
That's right. So welcome to the future of work. I am Jamie Swaim, and with me is Molley Ricketts and Jason Heflin.
Hey.
And we are here to talk about why robots are stealing our jobs and why Zoom is now basically our third parent and how we're all just trying to work in pajamas without anyone noticing. Fun fact, that absolutely is accurate, and I think my phone was listening whenever I talked about what I wear to work regularly.
well, for the audience, you work from home 100%.
I do. I work from home 100%. So I'm ready from shoulders up. Shoulders up. And Jason has described it as I must look like a second grader. And that's probably the most factual.
You dressed yourself
description.
today.
Like rain
Sounds
boots
good.
and tights.
Yes, it's whatever
Maybe a
is
plastic
available.
sword on your side. As you go.
Oh, not yet, but now we'll have
Okay.
to add that.
Plastic.
So in a world where your coworker could be an AI bot with better social skills than you, it's a jungle out there. And we're here to help you navigate it.
I think AI is taking a dig with that comment.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it might be funnier than you. So
That's right. And I have some friends with coworkers with excellent social skills. I just would like to put that disclaimer out there. So today we're going to cover the hottest trends, like what automation will leave us to do and why your office might become a tropical paradise, and how to convince your boss that learning TikTok dances is upskilling. I personally like that one. I wonder if it doesn't hear me also talk about the frequency with which I use TikTok.
It
knows from being on my phone, right?
It has to.
All right, so the first trend in the future of work, and we've hit on this quite a bit through our session, is remote work. So I guess my question to you guys is, where do we see remote work going? Do you feel like the future of work is more remote? Because there's been a lot of return to office chatter that's been happening on the web, right?
One of the top 5 things that I'm seeing in the future of workforce for 2025 is the RTO, return to office.
to the office.
But there are many people, many organizations that I think are waiting for that to happen, because as soon as they do, they're going to snatch that top talent that doesn't want to go back to the office, and they don't care where they are, office, hybrid, whatever, and they're going to grab it. And people are going to flock to those positions. It's going to be a culture shock.
Yeah, I agree. Our company went fully remote during the pandemic, and we stayed remote. We sort of democratically said, "What do you guys want to do?" And they said, "We want to stay home." So we did. But we have a quarterly in person. We have, of course, face-to-faces with clients, and then we have a couple employees that do choose to come into the office here and there. Just for the FaceTime and, to get free lunch, I guess. But it's I love it when they're there personally. But I can also understand how managing your life outside of work by being at home, it becomes much easier. You can get your kids off the bus, or you can run an errand at lunch and not worry about anything. So I see the advantages both ways, and also see that certain jobs just cannot be done remotely. We all
Absolutely.
know
Yeah.
that. So
And I think one of the biggest things in the difference of when we really pushed to the remote workforce for those that could move their positions to that, I think we also really said goodbye to the nine to five. I think that we gave that up as going remote. It's really more of a 24/7 feel, and I don't know if that's out of guilt or obligation because we are working from home, so we want the people around us and our teams to know that we're working. I think there's a lot of that's happening too. You
Absolutely.
know, I want to keep my remote job, so what do I need to do to make sure that I'm being seen as someone who's working successfully outside of the in-house office? So anyway, just throwing that in there.
I've worked from home since 2020, March of 2020. And the pros are I do feel like my life works better because when my kids are out of school or I have to go to the school to pick them up early or get them, they're staying after, whatever is happening around their scheduling, I feel like it's a lot easier to accommodate.
Less disruption.
Absolutely. So that part is great. I think there are some cons. I used to rely very heavily on walking through an environment and getting a sense of what it felt like, seeing the looks on people's faces, how people are interacting with each other. And as an HR professional, it was always very important to me to understand how the culture was working. And that is really complicated when you're not around people. I also really enjoyed the people that I work with and getting to know them outside of the work that was being conducted or the conversations that were happening in the meeting. So I have to be very intentional about getting to know each other, right? And staying in that relationship and building that relationship. So yeah, I see pros and cons. I feel like my pros are personal and then professionally, and so I can understand why businesses are having these conversations. It does take a lot more intentionality to make it productive and to make it a positive experience for the people that work there.
So I have a question for both of you. Do you feel like we need boundaries back?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think returning to the office would do that automatically. And I think there's some peace that comes with that. What about you, Jason? What do you think?
yeah, boundaries in terms of define what you mean by boundaries.
Your role, your position.
When you're on, when you're off.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely, most definitely. I mean, I think I have some team members that will work in the middle of the night. I have some team members that might take a 2-hour lunch every day. So it is difficult for those managers to kind of track that. And we're a much looser. The work we do is round the clock, so that kind of works sometimes for us. But that doesn't work for every organization, and I realize that we're in a very unique space. So, and I agree with what you're saying too, Jamie. Like culturally, that's the biggest issue we've seen is there are I guess you'd say cliques in the company because there are the people from the before times who all sat in an office together.
And they all know
in
each other really
cubicles.
well. Yeah.
They
Different bond.
shot the shit and they went to lunch together and they were buddies, you know? Or they weren't buddies, but they knew everything about each other. We have people who have probably been on board with us for a year or more who don't know the other team members' kids, or maybe even if they have kids sometimes. So we have to be very intentional about the way we do things culturally. We have a meeting. Every team has meetings every week called L10 meetings. It's part of a program called the EOS. And we use those meetings. The first thing we do is you list your personal and your business best for the week. And that personal best is the opportunity. It was a little awkward at first when we started doing it, but it's like, talk about your weekend, talk about like what's going on in your life. And people start asking questions and they get to know each other. So we've had to intentionally, it's an agenda item at the first of every team meeting every week is what's going on with you personally. And we have had some people say, I don't want to share. And that's okay. But the 99% of the time, people are like, "Oh my gosh, this thing happened this weekend," and my kid. And there's funny stories that come out of it. It does not replace in person though, but closest thing we've found.
I really think the future of work should be, if you can, like a 3-2.
A hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that there's benefit in that.
Do you think they should ease,
So-
companies like that are doing that should ease back in? Should it be a gradual, like, we're going to start coming into the office on Fridays? I've toyed with that.
I don't know. I'm going
Friday's
to
not a
just
good day.
keep, apparently I'm just going to keep talking about the trust triangle on every episode, which Jason wasn't here for.
Oh, so you can explain it again.
Yeah.
We'll allow
real
it.
quick, it is the combination of being authentic, being empathetic, and having rigorous logic. And that is how you build trust in your organization. So if we're using those three things, I think if you want to do it as a slow transition, it's because you've communicated end goal. I think bringing people back in for hybrid when they've been fully remote and not talking about the fact that you'd like to return to office is disingenuous.
And
right?
why?
Yeah, and
There's gotta be a
I think you
reason.
have to share your why, and I think you have to show up with that rigorous logic that's implied and trust building and what you're wanting to solve for. But I've seen some companies that have not done that really well, and they're getting butchered in
bad.
the news. So,
Well, and there's another hiccup there too. Like with us, because we became a remote company, we started hiring more remotely. So to bring people back to the office isn't quite possible if I have 2 people in Canada,
Yeah.
1 in the Philippines, 1 in Kansas,
Absolutely.
1 in Florida, 1 in Texas. So I think the other employees would look at me and say, all these new people don't have to come back to the office.
Well, and that's
Why
the
do
other
I?
side of the coin, right? The acceptance of people working remotely nationally was because of COVID. Because remember, I don't know if you guys suffered from this, but when I would work from home before COVID, BC, we and I would do a remote call. People were like, "Oh, you're working from home today?" Like
it's because you never did remote calls. Like
they were always in
even
person?
using the virtual meeting
Yeah.
technology was like, I don't know how to get this thing to work.
Right. But now it's okay. And now it's almost like people would rather meet remotely. I mean, I get that feeling.
That's because commuting, and especially in bigger cities, is just
It's,
challenging.
yeah.
Okay. So let's make a prediction. This is the future of work. This is the oracles. that the-
2026, what's
workforce
the
therapy
future of work
files.
for 2026?
Yeah. All right. So my vote is that I believe hybrid will be the solution. I think companies are going to have to continue with flexibility, but they have to also respect what their customers need. So I think it's going to require probably a little bit less flexibility than being fully remote. That's my prediction.
I think they're going to push for being in the office. I think that's going to be the big thing for this year, for 2025. And into 26, they're going to have to make it a hybrid model to be more flexible if they want to keep top talent.
I agree. I agree with both of you. I do think it will probably be more of an industry or role-based decision. So I think organizations like mine, who do a lot of technical work, could stay remote, and it could work. But we do have to create solutions for those cultural issues.
Yeah.
And
They're just not happening. We're not developing those fast enough. And I'm speaking in the royal we, like everyone, culture. Our culture as a workplace.
boundaries, that has to be made.
All right. You
What's
ready
AI got
popcorn?
for us next?
Ready for popcorn?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. The second item that AI predicts as the future of work is AI and automation. Nothing like a shameless plug, right?
For itself, the
yeah.
robots are coming.
We can't talk too poorly of AI because it's listening.
That's right.
AI is great.
I like what they wrote about it too. It says AI can do anything now. Write emails, sort data, even choose the best cat meme for Slack. So what's left for us humans to do? Apparently, go to meetings about AI. So welcome to our TED Talk. Yeah. So I am a newbie in the AI space, but I'll tell you a couple places I've used it, and I'd love to hear how you guys are introducing AI. One is I've discovered recently a tool called Smart Sheets, which can take Excel data and also use AI to create charts, graphs, and summaries. That's pretty slick. And kind of makes all those pivot table snobs, that's got to make you a little nervous, So there's not that special. That's right. Nobody needs it now because pivot tables still are kind of clunky. Okay, so there's that. The second one that I use it for is I've used it to take something I've written and condense it. Right. So
Well, let's call that polishing.
I like polishing.
I like that.
Augmentation. It's augmenting what we
Yeah.
do, making our work better, not replacing us.
Or if it's something that I've done multiple times, like write a policy or something like that, then I might ask it to write a draft and then go in and edit it and add things to it. And I appreciate not having to start from scratch on things that we might need around checklists or policies or drafts. We even used it recently to ask it to outline organization design, like a process map for organization design. So that's really helpful if you're trying to figure out how to get started quickly. Well, how are you guys using it?
I we use AI from a sense, or I personally, and then I'll talk a little bit about Zipio, but I will write something and then I'll throw it into chat and say rewrite. And it's just like, yes, that is exactly what I was trying to say. And people can understand it. Not that they couldn't understand my version, but the words that are being used in the rewrite from chat definitely make it a lot more understandable if you don't know what that subject matter is.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm using it. But I can definitely see how automation and the AI piece is going to completely change the trajectory of recruitment and all. Now, there you will still not be able to convince me that you can take the human out of recruiting. There's a piece of it, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes to touch the candidate in that process. You have to have eyes on it. But it'll make a lot of pieces of the recruitment process, from talent attraction. So Jason, how you're attracting talent to those positions that you guys work through, all the way through to assimilation.
Yeah.
That whole process will be much more effective, efficient, and the time to fill, if you use it right, well, the vacancies will just be minimal.
I'm going to insert Parcel's hot tip. So using AI in recruiting, please pay very close attention, because one of the most recent class action lawsuits that made it to the Supreme Court was about using AI in recruitment. Because as an organization, you are still responsible for your screening. You're still responsible for whether or not it has an unintended or disparate impact. So you just want to be really careful about how you introduce AI into your recruitment.
Yeah, there are a lot of sensitive topics and sensitive tasks that I don't think we would ever give to AI. Writing an important press release, or maybe you would get a draft, or maybe you would have it, spell check or look for better ways to say things. But, I think things like that still have to stay in human hands because of the
Totally agree.
liability.
Yeah.
Strictly because of the liability. We have some tools that are, Crowd South is a marketing company, so we have some marketing and advertising specific AI tools that we use. For instance, we have one that does A/B split testing suggestions. So if I'm going to test an ad for workforce, let's say I'm going to test an ad for a new position, and we write it one way and we use a specific image, and then we may ask AI to create 3 more versions of that we test against the one that we did, because before we were just doing all that manually, and then we test them to see which one wins, and then maybe we go back and we build more ads and we test those. That's how you get to the best end product. Well, it saves time. So the great thing is you're not eliminating the role, you're just saving them time. And as a business owner and manager, I can get more production out of my team, and they get to use their talents on things that they should be using them on, instead of copywriting all day. They're thinking of the concepts for the ads. They're doing the bigger
And that's what
creative
matters.
thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and they enjoy it, I think, more
Yeah.
than having to think of 4 versions of this ad. So that's
It's
one
like
neat thing.
you're really smart, but chat makes you a genius.
Yeah.
There is one AI application on the recruiting side that I genuinely enjoyed. There was one tool that I used. I can't think of the name of it right now. but it would take job descriptions and you could put the job description in and it would give you an evaluation of whether or not the words that you use leaned feminine or masculine. And what I thought was really cool about it is because there are certain words that that you might attract certain individuals to those job postings based off the verbs that were used or the way that things were phrased. And I thought that was fascinating. Now, don't understand the science behind it.
And
Because I like to think I'm, gender neutral on verbs, but I don't know that that's true.
And AI is only as good as the information that it's based on.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that information was created by humans, and we're flawed.
absolutely.
It is algorithmically pulling things from different sources, and those sources have agendas. So we have to remember that too.
Yeah.
So it could be better, but what is better? Is better in our voice, or do we want it in our voice? So that's something I try to think about
Those are
too.
great cautions.
one of the really cool things, to your point of building out job descriptions and those things, we're using those too. And as a person that loves using technology in ways that are new and different and innovative and trying to simplify processes for everyone so that we can all get to doing what we want to do better, faster, and more maneuverable, right? How do we do that? So also setting up a job description to be specific for the type of person that you're going after. What I mean is to say, if I'm looking for a laborer in the construction field of industrial construction, that job description should be different than a foreman for a home residential construction company, because the words in those two industries are going to be completely different. And I want the systems to pick up on those words so that those jobs get sent to the right candidate. So my marketing dollar is targeting the right candidate, not the whole bucket of people.
That's a great point, and that's another tool we use is one that's a keyword. It's a keyword generator. Based on you enter certain keywords that are relevant to the topic, it's going to start picking things that are similar, and based on data, based on what is actually being searched for. So it can enhance again, back to the human seeds it, the human has the creative concept and idea, and then the AI enhances it. And then you have to go back around again and make sure the AI enhanced
Yes.
it.
And that's where the fear in me comes into play from the compliance brain of you can't let this go too far, because then they're like, oh, well, the job description is written for XYZ 1, 2, 3. And if it's targeting the primary, let's say that it's the male gender because it's a construction job, you don't want that either. So
That's right.
balancing the two and making sure you go back to refine the words.
All right, so let's make a quick prediction because, believe it or not, we are at the end of our 30 minutes. We're starting to
So
get really
fast.
close to that. So, part 2, you want to do a part 2 of this?
We could.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So, predictions for AI and automation. I'm going to put a prediction out there since we're talking future of work. I believe that the use of this is going to continue to grow in all types of segments, but everything we're talking about is about junk in, junk out. You got to have some thought behind the inputs. You got to understand whether or not you can evaluate the outputs and that it's doing what you intend for it to do. So I see new skills emerging. I see another possible job that will exist of making sure we're feeding the engine appropriately in different industries and in different roles in the organization. So that is my prediction.
I definitely think we're going to see and have to discuss the future of careers. There's so many variables in roles that are being developed out of all of the cross functionalities that we have within organizations, that jobs that we never, operations, tactical, individual contributor, group, those types of things are definitely going to play a part. But I think there are jobs where a college degree isn't relevant, that isn't a skilled labor role. It's about the human side of it and pulling in all of the things that a person has done within an organization to create that one position. I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, I would say that employers probably need to not think about which roles in their org chart can be replaced, but which responsibilities under those roles can be replaced or enhanced using new technology and AI. And for leaders who are listening, if you're not using AI and you're simply relying on your employees to use it, play with it. Break off 30 minutes a week or an hour a month or whatever that is to just start learning it a little bit, understanding how it works and how it could benefit your organization, because there may be things that are eating up bandwidth for your team that could be solved through this.
So I want to throw this out to you guys, and we don't have to answer it today, maybe in the next episode and for our listeners. But I have this thought, crazy idea. Instead of thinking of AI as replacing us or robots are coming and they're taking our jobs, how about we think of opportunities and ways that we can simplify a role to eliminate a position, but then to take the funds for that role and then spread those dollars out among those that are stepping up, that are leveling up, so that everybody does more, everybody makes more. So it's
Molley
not
just
about
created
stealing
your-
my job.
Yeah, Molley just created your leadership development budget, is what I'm hearing.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's great.
I could eliminate
What a-
one person, take that, let's say it's $50,000 and spread
You mean that one
10,000.
role.
One role.
You're not the Terminator. You're
Right. You're right.
Whoa, but
I'm
AI,
sorry.
Terminator was
Dang it.
artificial intelligence.
What a weird way to wrap this up.
Oh my gosh.
John Connor.
They're
Was that
coming.
your-
John Connor.
Is that your Arnold Schwarzenegger impression?
Yeah.
That was not a good one.
No. Wait,
All
one
right.
more time. Listen really close.
All right, no. Jamie's the expert. Go for it, Jamie. Do yours.
I already sang on this podcast once. I'm good.
Everybody's a
Good.
critic today.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Absolutely.
Hey, can I ask a weird question?
Love word questions.
Okay, not 24 months into the future, not 36 months. What does the future of work with automation look like 10 years in the future? What do you-
That's terrifying.
That's crazy, isn't it? To think
That's
about
iRobot.
how fast things are moving.
Yeah.
I even think manufacturing around 3D printers and all of these things, there are so many things that already exist. They just aren't at scale yet. And I
That
just
we
think
know
that the
of.
future of manufacturing, the future of home building,
Robots are fighting the wars now. The drones
Oh.
are, unmanned drones are, it's just,
Terrifying.
well,
I think.
or exciting
yeah.
because less people are having to go to the front line. And that's the thing about this. There's so many pros and cons, so many ways that this could be powerful and scary. And I think the unknown is scary regardless. So
That's a lot of power for one thing to have. Thing.
yeah.
You say a lot of power for one human, but
Yeah.
what's worse, a human or a thing?
I personally just want to thank our robot overlords for protecting
For
us and
sponsoring
for
this
taking
podcast.
care of this podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yes, all electronic devices and vehicles that I'll be driving later today that have those. We love you.
Well, join us again next time for part 2 of the future of work. Jim, are you guys ready to say it?
1, 2, close that file.
Wow.
That sucked.
Wow.
Thanks for listening to the Workforce Therapy Files. We hope you learned something new, and we're thankful for the time that you spent with us today. If there's a topic you'd like us to discuss, reach out to us. Our contact information's listed in the show notes. Until next time, keep your head up.